Hello, beautiful, and welcome back to another episode of Beautiful, I Am Colored. As you know by now, we are in season 2 of the podcast and have morphed into a talk show, where each week I share some insights with you that I've learned throughout my week. And I'll also be interviewing guests from time to time. This week, we do have a guest, but more about that later. The interviews that I conduct align with the things highlighted in my book titled Beautiful, I Am Colored, having to do with spirit, mind, soul, and body. I'm honored that you have returned to hear more, and as always, I appreciate your support. For those interested, you can follow me on Instagram at Beautiful I Am Colored, on my website, beautifuliamcolored.com, and now you can see the recorded interview sessions on my YouTube channel, also under Beautiful I Am Colored. So let's dive right into this week's shout outs and thank yous. I have had such an amazing week, and I don't necessarily mean good, and I don't necessarily mean bad, but it's just been an amazing week, the breadth of the week. And I am kind of struggling with how much to share versus how little to share and where that balance is, because most of you know by now that I do very little editing as it pertains to the weekly podcast on Sundays, just because I don't have time to do editing stuff. I just don't. So I talk to y'all just normal, as it comes up in my spirit. But let me go ahead and get these shout outs and thank yous out of the way, and then we'll see what my spirit utters up as I begin to talk. So this week's shout outs and thank you go to, and not in any particular order, but just in the order that I wrote them down. Miss Amy Harris, who is a fellow community member here in Denver. We met up to kind of just talk about my experience in law school because she holds a JD. So we met at a local coffee shop and we just discussed. Oh, and she purchased my book, which was amazing. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this in my intro. My books are now available for buy one, gift one. What that means is you pay for the price listed on the website, and I'm going to automatically mail you a second book so that you can gift it to someone. The purpose, one, I would like to reduce inventory because I'm shifting to my office here at the house. I will now have a dedicated space here in the coming weeks. Previously, my desk or office space was in the open part of the basement, but because of sound and all those things, I do need to have a door. And because one of the kids, young adults that is, moved out recently, I now have access to one of the rooms. So I'll be in the process of shifting it. But getting back into my conversation with Amy, we just had like a really good conversation about family stuff, spiritual stuff, everything. It was just such a good time. And so shout out and a thank you to Amy Harris for taking time out of her schedule to meet with me at the local coffee shop. Great conversation. Can't wait to do it again. The second shout out goes to all of the volunteers, all of the organizers, supporters, sponsors, etc. for the 36th annual Colorado Black Arts Festival. It was 3 days this year. And I believe since in the 6 years I've been in Denver, I've attended the event every year except one. And of course, I believe COVID restricted it 1 year as well. I have to say, I feel like this year was absolutely the best one. Like the main stage was amazing. Someone saw fit to put me on a list to have access to sit under some shade. And so thank you to whoever that was that thought of me. I really appreciated it. Me and Marlon were able to have a couple of brews before we found our artwork, which sends me to my next shout out and thank you goes to a local artist. I believe Mr. McNulty is in his 80s. He's actually one of our neighbors too. He only lives a few blocks away from our house. We were able to find out in talking through him. By the way, I encourage you that if you don't know about Colorado Black Arts Festival, check out their website. They have all the updated information there. It's every year. Again, this year was so amazing. I enjoyed it so much. So if you're in the Denver area or you live here, I strongly suggest you check it out, especially if you love art and local artistry. So getting back to Mr. McNulty. So Mr. McNulty, we first bought a print of his a couple years ago at the Juneteenth event here in Denver. And we were like, oh my God, we just love his work because the colors are so vivid. They definitely tell a story. And we like warm colors in our house. We tend to go with primary warm colors for our decor. And so anyhow, Mr. McNulty's tent, we talked with him. We were able to purchase, and if you go to my Instagram page, I probably should have this posted by the time you hear this. You can see the pieces that we picked, and we have a fourth one that he is going to create, which should be available in about a week or so. But I just believe strongly in supporting local artistry and local artists, or homegrown or indie artists, I think is the new name for it. But it was just such a pleasure, like, to talk to him and for him to unpack, like, you know, what the artwork meant to him, what they're titled and why. Just a very, very just, oh my God, such a loving man. And so shout out to Mr. McNulty for your contributions to the community in the form of your artwork. The next thing I want to talk about before I get into my short segment that I want to titled Paid Attention. In the shout outs and thank you section, I want to say, like, shout out and thank you honestly to myself. So for those of you who do not know or haven't been following me for long, I recently graduated from law school and really kind of struggled with, like, kind of what to do next. But I have applied for some jobs. And so in the past 2 weeks now, I've interviewed for 2 positions, and I'm just so proud of myself because I'm going to tell you, I hit those interviews out of the ballpark. Do you understand? The first one was the first interview was like kind of, you know, a little bit not rocky, but rough because I haven't interviewed in such a long time. But ever since I lost a job at Target way back in like 2009 or something like that, that I really wanted, I made it a habit. The interview is not going to be what prevents you from hiring me. I leave it at that. The bottom line is that I'm really excited to start back into the workforce, work field, and doing something that is in law. And so I'm really excited. I probably won't ever talk in detail about what I do professionally. I don't think. I might make hints here and there, but you know, Denver is small, and just for privacy reasons and to keep some separation, I probably won't ever go into detail. But I'm just so thankful because the interviews, like, just said, okay, you can do this. And even if this is not the one thing, that's okay. There are other things out there and are available, you know, for me. And the right thing is there. One of those things, of course, is my podcast, which I love doing. I love talking to you every week. I love talking to this microphone and into this space. I'm learning how to get better at talking to the camera because, as you will see if you go to my YouTube channel, the first two interviews, like, I had a very difficult time, like, focusing on the camera lens, but then looking down at the screen, it's a whole mess. But the bottom line is I'm actually doing it, and I'm working out the kinks along the way. I don't know who needed to hear that, but I'm actually doing it and working out the kinks along the way. Final repeat. I'm actually doing it and carving out the kinks along the way. Sometimes we allow little things, especially if you have like a perfectionist type of personality or behavior, we allow certain things to limit us because we place our own limitations on it because it's not looking as pristine. Now, I just may be talking to Evelyn because I am that way. Let me just say, I want things to be like crystal cut. It needs to be operate from a high level of excellence. Everything points back to my character, blah, 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 blah. You get what I'm saying. The bottom line is that I am at a place in my life where I have made a decision that come what may, I have to do what I feel like I'm called to do. And that doesn't mean that I have to place limitations on myself for one thing. Let me go back. I have one additional person that I want to shout out this week. Her name is Coach Laura Rochelle. She walked me through a visualization this week that was so amazing. And I believe in coaches and stuff like that, but for me, you really do have to be the right one. And I was just, oh my God, so fortunate and blessed to have met her. I think I mentioned her the other week. We met at the beauty shop. Shout out to On Point Beauty Bar in 5 Points. But anyhow, oh my God, just amazing. I feel like I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. That's going to conclude shout outs and thank yous for this week's segment, which was a little bit longer, but I had a lot on my heart to share with y'all. Stay tuned. We're going to take a little bit break, and then I'm going to be back with another short excerpt titled Paid Attention. I'll talk in more detail about that in just a moment. And then you're going to hear from the guest for this week, Miss Kimberly Bell. I recorded a segment with her on the 7th. And oh my gosh, such an amazing woman, such a powerful testimony. She's also self-published author. But you'll hear more about her in that interview segment. For now, we're going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back with the segment titled Paid Attention. Okay, so I'm back with a very short segment. I'm titling this segment Paid Attention, and that'll make sense as I unpack this topic. So I keep up with a lot of different things. I consider myself to be somewhat of a generalist in general. That was funny. And recently I was contacted by a new app to kind of host talks and things, along with, I'm sure, hundreds of thousands of other people. I'm sure they sent this email to. But I was so excited, right? Like, I was on it. And no, I'm not going to say the name of the app, because at this point, I do not talk about things that I tend to talk about things that I have very good experiential knowledge from. And because this is still a learning curve and I haven't made my final decision about it, I'm not going to tell you what the app is. Okay. Anyhow, so they contacted me and was like, hey, we think, your podcast fits, with what we're trying to do and connecting, other people, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, oh my God. Oh, somebody contacted me about my podcast. Okay. So the beautiful thing about it is I've been trying to figure out how to monetize and stuff like that, because it's a lot of work to do podcasts. Even though I enjoy it and I don't intend on stopping, it still is a lot of work. So I'm trying to think of creative ways to monetize, right? And all of the different platforms have different requirements in order for you to meet that threshold to where you can be monetized. And that goes for YouTube, Instagram, you name it. Everyone has a different set of requirements in order to get monetized. But with this one, because it's new, essentially you could get monetized kind of fairly quickly right away. But here's the clincher. You really have to kind of be in the app a lot to increase the monetization. Not only that, the monetization portion or aspect of the particular app is digital currency that can be used to pay for real things. Why am I naming this and titling this section Paid Attention? Because as we dive deeper into artificial intelligence, into virtual reality, it is very commonly known that this is going to be one of the ways in which we stay engulfed in the virtual arena by incentivizing it with being paid for. Even if it is digital currency, you can actually utilize it to get real tangible things. But if all of your time and energy, or a substantial amount of your time and energy is actually engulfed in these virtual arenas, and I'm not saying that virtual arenas aren't possible, right? This is why I'm talking to you right now through a virtual type of avenue. However, I do have some concerns about being so engrafted into the virtual arena that we don't come up to literally take a breath of fresh air, to go outside, to actually meet people in person and feel humanity through that way as well. I am concerned. And so for me, I just wanted to say this segment. I'm still on the app. I haven't really participated. I haven't done any talks because I value so much my private, intimate time. And when you think about if you work full time and then you also do several things on the side in terms of having multiple streams of income, you can see how quickly you will become a different person. And so part of that for me is looking at it through this filter of, yes, you're doing good things. We definitely need to press through this ether and put more positivity out there and show people that there is hope and that there is love and that there are good people out here. Everyone is not bad. Most people are actually good. so I have a lot of intention about that. At the same time, I'm trying my best to weigh the scales, in terms of harmonizing or balancing where that threshold or that line is. And I'll just be transparent and say that I'm not actually sure at this point where that line is for me, because I'm still so new in this area, But as I grow, and as the podcast evolves and as I get used to being in video and stuff like that, I do have that concern. And I can imagine that younger people who are starting off in this already, they might be experiencing challenges too. I know that my young adults, four of them, have off and on told me about, the whole being on social media, seeing what other people have and stuff is a lot mentally. And so I just have a concern, about where that balance lies, and how are we evolving as human beings. It's just something to consider. It's just food for thought, especially when we think about our little ones, who have not had the opportunity yet to, experience life. Or maybe we're just at a juncture where they're just going to experience life in a very vastly different way. But anyway, that's what was on my mind. Hopefully it makes sense why I said paid attention, due to the incentivization of virtual currency. And yeah, I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to switch gears here now. And I told you we have a special guest this week. The interview with Miss Kimberly Bell was recorded on July 7th. And today is July 10th. As you know, I air podcast on Sundays. And so I hope you enjoy the interview. It's a short snippet and some insight into Miss Bell's life and what she brings to the table. I hope you'll consider supporting her by attending one of the upcoming conferences that she'll be at. More details are on the link in the description box. You can go to her website and learn more. But I hope you enjoy this next segment. And then we'll be back again, of course, next week for an additional interview with a different person. And you'll learn more about that as we go. Okay, stay tuned for the interview. And thank you so much again for listening. Hello, and welcome back to our next segment of Beautiful I Am Colored. I am so honored to have another guest on my show. I had the pleasure of being connected to Kimberly Bell through a software system matching kind of ish artificial intelligence thing that they have going on. So they thought that we were compatible and matched us. And I had the pleasure of speaking with her just as an introductory conversation on the 7th. No, a few days ago. We're recording this on July 7th. By the time you see this, it'll be July 10th when my podcast airs. But I'm so grateful to have Kimberly here. Before we get started with Kimberly sharing a shout out or a thank you for this week's episode, I want to give you a little bit of an overview about Kimberly before we begin. Kimberly Bell is a speaker and author of the book titled The Epitome of Kimmie, which is a memoir about not giving up, but has the ultimate goal of inspiring others. The Epitome of Kimmie, to accept, embrace all as it is. It is an eye-opening memoir that takes you beneath the surface into some of the harshest realities of a child's life. It is the unfiltered true story of Kimberly Ann Bell, who you're going to hear from in just a few seconds here, who has faced a lot in life, dealing with abandonment, sexual and physical abuse, starting from a young age. Kimberly is a native of Salisbury, Maryland, and her pride and joy are her four daughters and son. She loves nature, animals, and mostly anything that exemplifies life. She is kind, generous, and self-sufficient person who aspires to live a life that will leave a legacy in the hearts of many people. She seeks to have an everlasting relationship with the Almighty Father, to confidently soar like an eagle through this earthly life. The Lord is her strength, and she believes that she can only reach full capacity when she relies on Christ, who is the head of her life and the source of her resilience. She believes that God will get all the glory now and forever. There is not one thing that Kimberly would change concerning who she is or has become. Her passion of understanding family dynamics and the human mind is something she lives with every day. She holds 2 degrees in human growth and development psychology, as well as theology. Kimberly, welcome to Beautiful I Am Colored podcast. And as promised, I would love to hear, before we cascade into learning more about your book, as well as having a little bit of a chit chat. What shout outs, and it could be an entity or person, an inanimate object, shout outs or thank yous, do you have or that you want to share with the audience?
Okay. Well, it's a blessing and it's an honor. Thank you so much for having me and for such a beautiful connection, that I know it was nothing but predestined moment from God. So I am definitely honored. So I would like to give a shout out to three, just
Okay.
right off the top of my head. My first one is my godmother from Huntsville, Alabama, is Dr. Wooten. She is the consistent um, godmother that was definitely placed in my life. And when I say she was the one that was the first one that had planted that seed, she was the first one that said that I was beautiful. She was the first one that said I was smart. She has that accent from Huntsville, Alabama, and I would
Yeah, yeah,
never
yeah.
forget when she said that. I said, just like, I'm gonna always remember that. And then I would like to give a shout out to my auntie, and that is my biological mother, sister, Aunt Regina. She has no idea how much our relationship means to me. She's been with me almost all week and off and on in the weekend, trying to help me prepare for my first conference coming up since the book had been released. And want to just give a shout out to Auntie Regina. And then the last one I want to give a shout out to is the well. I have been spiritually fed and feeling the growth every time I walk into that atmosphere of that congregation with that pastor and the beautiful first lady, his wife, the well. I got to get a shout out to. You just have no idea how much they mean to me in this season in my life. So there I am. And thank you for the opportunity to give my 3 shouts out to these 3 that probably had no idea. But if they was not in my life in this season, I would not be sitting here right now. So thank you.
I love it. And I also love that you had 3. I think that is so awesome. I shared with you before I pressed the record button how important it is to me to ground each show, and showing, just a moment of gratitude. And you never know who's going to hear that. And they may think about that too. And then I believe in intention and setting your day, is very important. So again, thank
Yes.
you for shouting out those 3 individuals.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just dive right into this conversation because listen, when we talked on the phone, I was like, "Oh, you're not a member of a church anymore?" Like how did that happen? You have a
Yeah.
degree like in theology. Like, girl,
Yeah.
what is the business on that? Do you feel comfortable first of all we talking about this?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I mean, I was, raised up in denominational. Before then, I was, my biological parents were members of Pentecostal Apostolic. So I was shouting. I knew how to shout at
Mhm.
5 or 6.
Yes,
And when I
yes.
got adopted, I was right into a structured denomination, AME Zion. So
Mm.
I would have my adopted mom I would tell her, hold my hand while I'm shouting. And then I told her, I said, these people don't shout, like what I was used to. But, and I still am charismatic. I shout and I dance. I mean,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
love all types of music. So I'm always moving.
I love
and
it. I
now
love
and
it.
now I got my grandkids and my minor, I'm just they just look at me and like I'm crazy. I'm like, yeah, so but um with the church, and I've been in conference studies ministry, I found that what's important
Mhm.
to me and what I have expressed throughout my counseling sessions and throughout, people just asking me their opinion, my opinion on spirituality and religion, and having a church home or whatnot, is that what's my priority, and what I could say to someone is your relationship with God. That's what matters to me, your relationship with God. And it does not mean that you are in church every Sunday or a member, but it's your relationship with God and how you depend on him, and what he means to you as his creator, as him being the creator of your life, help you go through this journey in life. Do you depend on him to the fullest, that you leave every aspect of your life in his hands? And it's easier said than done, but what I found is the relationship is like any other relationship. You have to feed it, you have to invest in it, you have to put time in it, and it's just like it is. If you don't invest in it and you don't communicate with any relationship, it's none. It really suffers.
That's right.
So and so I have learned that even when I had been in the pulpit and ministered, that I was called out so many times about being transparent, about speaking about the truth that generational era did not want to expose. They felt like, I didn't have to say all that. I didn't have to go there. I didn't have to utilize, share my testimony to that degree to help someone. And I was like, but that's not me. That's hiding, or just, you're asking me to hold back something that I had to get delivered from, or that is needed to be delivered from.
Absolutely.
You get what I'm saying?
I do. I do.
And so I started feeling, as I kept being shut down, as I kept being at one time, because of who I married, I was pretty much not asked to stand up and preach, pretty much, but just sit there. When I got a divorce, because I didn't stay in the marriage, I was pretty much told that no one was going to listen to me. I was better off to stay in an abusive relationship and have people look at what is presented as me being married than me being single. So I had learned that through this journey, that I started ministering and speaking the truth outside of the pulpit, and being delivered and healed, and even helping other people find healing and truth, and finding the Spirit of God to come into their life. And to help them, because I kept saying, throughout my ministering and testimony, but this, what I'm letting you know is, all glory be to God, because it's not me. It's not me. If you placed it just Kimberly Ann Bell, I would have done anything. I would have gave up. I would have checked out. I would have definitely had one of those suicidal thoughts come in completion. But it was God that changed and held me in the palm of his hands, that I, in the middle of so many different circumstances, I cried out to him. Even if I couldn't even, at one time I was going in such a distraught, I was mumbling, and I was crying so bad I couldn't even get the words out. But in my mind, I was saying, help me, Jesus, at this moment. If you don't help me, it's not going to be done. And it wasn't at the altar at that time. It wasn't in the church at that time. It was no one in the ministerial staff I was going to be able to call at that time and could understand, because I was at one time in the ministerial staff, which I was one of the youngest person on the staff. And pretty much, Evelyn, it was the women outside in the congregation that pulled me under their wing. It wasn't the women that was the older ones that was in the ministerial staff that even accepted me. If anything. They were
Mm-hmm.
trying to bully me. They were telling me about my dress code. They were saying something about my shoes. It was always something to try to
Mm-hmm.
shut me down or discourage me of me feeling like I'm on the ministerial staff. Do I even belong in here? Do I
Right.
even belong in this pulpit with you all?
I
And I
think.
remember one time, I would get so filled up in my spirit because only God, me and
Mm.
God knew things that I had been through. I mean, here I had been, misdiagnosed where statistics and society said I would never read or write. So the challenge of reading and
Mm-hmm.
writing,
Mm-hmm.
it was spirituals or hymnals that would be sung in that church that I was raised in, the denominational church, and it would fill me up so bad, and I would pretty much get talked about in the staff because I got happy and I, rejoiced in God because of what God had brought me to instead of
Mm-hmm.
embracing. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So
I do.
it's just
Mm-hmm.
it's just a living testimony for people to understand and it to be very honest and
Mm-hmm.
out there that
Mm-hmm.
so many people say and get discouraged and say church is the worst place to go or the
Yeah.
worst place to see people,
Mm-hmm.
fellowshipping in. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and then here's another saying, um, church hurt is one of the
Mm-hmm.
worst hurts
Yes.
ever. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can
Mm-hmm.
sympathize and I understand, but I also want to also inspire people to understand, just don't let that resonate in your heart and discourage you
Mm-hmm.
from going to church or
Mm-hmm.
feeling like there's not a church that can spiritually feed you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have found once I change my focus, Evelyn, to my relationship
Mm-hmm.
first and that's the priority each and
Mm-hmm.
every day, every morning. It's about my relationship between me and God
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how he's going to enable me physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Go through this day. Be the
Mm-hmm.
mother that I
Mm-hmm.
have to
Mm-hmm.
be the friend that I have to be the co-worker that I have to be when he does that. You get what I'm saying?
I
From the
do.
very beginning, I leave the spiritual feeding into his hands. And trust me, I have found now I found a church that really does feed me and
Mm-hmm.
feeds my spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And they're younger than I am, a beautiful younger couple, and I'm not a member of, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm fed
Right.
spiritually.
Right. So I think that is you made a lot of good points, but one of the things that I definitely share with you is that I have found that religion in and of itself and
Mm-hmm,
doctrines like to compartmentalize the experience and or define the relationship that an individual can have with God,
mm-hmm,
and that keeps everything safe and tidy and
mm-hmm.
neat, um, which is one of the reasons also why I left, right? And I was very active, praise and worship teams and the like. For those of you who don't know, yes, I do sing, but not as much as I used to. But yes, I can sing.
Oh, right.
Um, but I think also the other point is that if we allow ourselves to, because, well, 2 points. Let me backtrack. Last I checked, the Bible says that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. What I have found in church, similar to you in terms of sharing transparent stories with, quote, the body of Christ, is that they don't necessarily want it packaged in a way that blemishes, the blemishes whatever the perception and the pristine nature of church is, which is honestly the opposite, in my opinion, of what church should be.
B. Mm-hmm,
Exactly.
right.
And so I've taken on the mindset now of I am the church, actually.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
I am, there the church is, and like my and
Right.
like-minded individuals, right? There are certain things, certain people that I can come across to, and likewise you as well, based on what you just said, that we can get to, that the church will never be able to get to because you're stuck and your mindset is set on one way or one approach. And I just think that, in my opinion, and it's a humble one, that God has called us to be so much more
Right.
and so much greater when we take off those restrictions. So I appreciate you
And it's not about
sharing.
image. Yeah.
Right. No, it's not. I mean, what makes you attractive is your spirit. What makes you
Right,
attractive is your character. You know what I'm saying? That's what gets other
right,
people to want to ask more
right,
questions.
right.
Along those same lines, during our preliminary call before this recording tonight,
Hmm.
you touched on a little bit the chapter in your book titled
Yes.
Silent Cry.
Hmm.
It piqued my interest. I'm not going to lie to you. I haven't read it yet, but I would really like to kind of cascade into just contextually what is that chapter about and why is it called Silent Cry? Because I think it's pivotal to where I feel like we're going in the conversation.
Well, it was pretty much my voice wasn't heard, and it was uh from very young at 5 and 6. No one asked me questions. No one said, Kim, how do you feel?
Mm-hmm.
This is
Mm-hmm.
what's going on. It was pretty much figure this out. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yeah.
you're the adult, you're the child. This is what's happening. And I fell into the spirit of a silent of my voice, what I had to say wasn't important. Why should it be heard?
Mm-hmm.
Because no one has asked me. So it
Mm-hmm.
followed
Mm-hmm.
me through my young adult life to my marriages of having this broken spirit of not not having a voice, not having a voice to speak my mind and speak my
Mm-hmm.
truth. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember, when I would try to, as a young child, my adopted mother would tell me, you know, you talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
Don't say that. You don't share what's going on in the home. Or she would say, and I was getting so confused because
Mm-hmm.
at one end they're telling me you never lie, you tell the truth, but then on the other hand you're telling me people are nosy. When we go out there, you might not look like us, but when we go out there, because it was about their image, when we go out there to church or we
Mm-hmm.
go out there in the community, we all live in here, you're our baby. They might know you're Ellen and your family, but you're our child. People are
Mm-hmm.
nosy, and if they
Mm-hmm.
ask you anything, I'm your mom and Daddy Bill is your dad.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew
Mm-hmm.
differently, Evelyn. I was 5. I still wanted connection, and I still was wondering, where is these people? Why did they just drop me off? They just left me. They done went on with their own life. They done got divorced. They had other children, and ain't nobody come and get me. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
know that they are, my parents.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that crippled me to a silent cry that
Mm-hmm.
I had to find freedom from
Mm-hmm.
and to release and
Mm-hmm.
say, I do have a voice. I
Mm-hmm.
can be heard.
Mm-hmm.
And then get this, I had to accept I have a right to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. You speak on a topic that is so key for a lot, I would say, of women. I too struggled with finding my voice because, of abuses that happened and traumatic experiences as a child. And I want to know a little bit more. When you say finding your voice, nobody listened to you. What are some of the things, practical things, that you did? I know your relationship with the Lord was definitely the lead, but how did you find that voice, and what would you say to others who are listening who are like, I'm kind of struggling with this as well, and finding my voice, finding my purpose, finding out, what I need to do? What are some of the practical things that you did to kind of just, because the Kimberly I see, I baby, that voice, boom boom, So, what would you say to others who are just kind of struggling or just looking for answers? I want to find my voice. I know I have one, but how?
Well, immediately I had to first choose, Evelyn, that I had enough. I had to choose um different.
Mm,
I I said I cannot continue. I will not continue. I choose
mhm,
not to continue to live a life with a silent cry that my voice did not matter. My mentality had to really change. I had to choose that. And I had to choose to start loving me first. I started investing in me. I started validating myself without looking for any validation. And for years, I struggled with that. I had to, someone had to validate my feelings. Someone had to validate it before I felt comfortable enough to feel like it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel disappointed and feel like unjustified, why, after you done gave and gave and gave, So I started to understand that this had to start with me first. I had to get out of the mentality of it's my children, living for them, and as long as they're okay, I'll be okay. No, even with my Minnie, she's getting the best of me because you know why? Each morning she comes after me. It's God first, then it's me, and then it's her. So she's getting the best of me because she wouldn't be able to get the best of me if I didn't choose me first. So I had to do that too. And as I was doing those, as you said, practical things, I had to put them in action. When I said reinvest in myself, I had to start seeing what Kim liked, because years I remember just living for my children, sacrificing, and I didn't know really what Kim liked. What did I enjoy? I enjoyed traveling. I always knew I enjoyed music, but I really invested listening at all different types of music. I've never been a gym person, but what do I enjoy? I enjoy walking. I enjoy nature. I enjoy visiting other places, places that it's like a highlight of my life. Not just going to another state, but going to another state, deliberately going to a restaurant that is not a restaurant that I could go in Maryland, but definitely different. So I can say, I've been there and it's totally different. And this is what I tried, something that I've never had. So I had to put it in action. I had to put in action that what I thought I knew and what I thought that I was raised in as far as the relationship with God, I had to form my own. My own relationship, my own comfortability of relationship, where it wasn't always prostrate, but it was riding in the car. It was on my nature walks, my talks. It was, in the midnight hours, sometimes in the bathroom, on the toilet. That's what I'm just talking. Yeah. I get it. So I had to put everything that is practical that I'm saying as far as learning to love me in action. And I had to accept and remember, okay, how did this was broken because my futures were compared, but now I can embrace, and that's why accept and embrace is so profound to me, because I live that accept and embrace. Because when I just gave you the example about accepting and going into that practical of learning to love myself, I explored and accepted through that memoir. Okay, this is where and why it's so important that I have to choose to build my self-esteem, because that hindrance of at 10 or 11 years old, when my adopted mom had that, and it wasn't to really, because this is her era and this is what she knew how to raise a child and to do. It wasn't to intentionally hurt me, but she had really literally compared my features, my nose, my lips, my color, different from them, and said, but we still love you. But in my mind, Evelyn, it was, but this is so not attractive. This is ugly. I don't need to really be here, but they still love me. And so I had to really start putting that in action and loving myself and saying, okay, that's where that started being broken, that you are responsible to build up. So now that you see that and you know that, but what did Daddy Bill say? That how he called you Kimmie. He felt in his spirit, and he was the balance. He said, not too long after that wasn't even a month that passed, he said, Kimmie, he said, you have a beautiful smile, and you've stopped smiling because that what my mom had said has started weighing on me, and he felt it, but he never corrected her. He never said nothing. But what he did say, he said, Kimmie, I want you to remember something. If you don't remember nothing that I've said to you, I want you to remember about this here. The world needs your smile. So what happened, Evelyn? That's how I started building my self-esteem. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I had to practically put things in action, and I felt my accountability, my responsibility. Once we put our responsibility of what we can do back into our hands, we done finished half of the battle.
I love it. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard the wise words of Miss Kimberly Ann Bell. Her book is titled The Epitome of Kimmie. You can find it on Amazon and pretty much, I believe, anywhere books are sold at this point. And she also has a website, KimberlyAnnBell.com. I'll have all of the links in the description box for you if you want to learn more about her journey or catch her at an upcoming conference. So Kimmie, before I kind of stop the recording here at this point, would you like to share the information about the conferences that you have coming up? I know your speaking engagements. I know you said at the beginning that you were working on that, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Would you like to share and let the audience know, or should they just check out your website for more information?
Yeah, well, I will be in Atlanta this weekend. It's a dear sister that came into my life just like you, Ring Out the Sponge. She's got this is her nugget, and she's starting her conference with this awesome Ring Out the Sponge, Regina, and it's on my website, her last name. But I'm so honored to be one of the speakers for that. And then I will be in Maryland in August, and North Carolina and August too. But those conference titles are on my website page, and I'm just really excited to be a part of some amazing women that's passionate like you, Evelyn, that is really ready to work in their season and to inspire other women and be very transparent about this journey and this race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but the one that endureth to the end, but also the ones that are, able to be transparent and honest and love on one another and help us through this journey. So I'm just blessed. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again, Kimberly, for being here. It's been a pleasure and an honor. I definitely feel at peace and just greeting you. It's amazing how much can get done through this little camera and lens here. So thank you so much for being a guest on Beautiful I Am Colored.
Thank you so much
you
for
hold on
having me.
a second, Kimberly.
Okay.
I'm going to close out and I'll see everyone else. Well, not see, virtually see, I guess that is, next week for another episode of Beautiful I Am Colored. And we have wrapped up another show for the week. As always, I hope that you enjoyed it. But more than anything, I pray and continue to pray that you have found a sense of hope and healing in hearing other people's stories and me sharing with you some insights and perspectives I've gleaned from the week. As always, you can contact me directly at beautiful.iamcolored@gmail.com by visiting me on my website at beautifuliamcolored.com, following me on Instagram under that same handle, as well as now you can see the videos segment of interviews on my YouTube channel, also titled Beautiful I Am Colored. I have been your host, Evelyn, and remember, the future you is waiting on you. Until next time, beautiful, please consider taking advantage of supporting me by purchasing my book, which is on my website, beautifuliamcolored.com right now. And honestly, to all the inventory is gone, it will be buy one, gift one. So you buy one, I automatically ship you a second book out to gift to someone else. As always, I appreciate you all so much. This podcast journey has been so amazing and so spiritual for me. And so I look forward to next week when we cascade into another topic and also another interview lined up for next week. But until then, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I will talk soon.